everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com and it's time to talk about AEW Dynamite, specifically the go-home show for WrestleMania. That doesn't make any sense, but it was still an action-packed Dynamite. This one was in a different venue, the smaller secret venue, not Daily Place in Jacksonville, but it still looked alright. We had some of the wrestlers in the crowd to create a bit of noise, and I think they probably did the best with what they could do. But how good was the actual show itself? Well, there's only one way to find out, friends, and that is by assigning each individual segment a lovely individual grade. That's right, it's time for AEW Dynamite Graded. Just before the first match, we go to ringside with our commentators for the evening, Tony Schiavone and Cody Rhodes, with Pharaoh. He brought his dog along, he holds the mic to him for comment. I think everyone was hoping that Pharaoh would bark and it would be adorable, but he no-sold it completely, didn't make a single noise. Cody would be replaced by Colt Cabana halfway through the night because he had to get ready for a match, but before we begin, they do reveal the rest of the bracket for the TNT Championship Tournament. Prior to this show on social media, we already knew half of the competitors. We knew that in the first round there would be Cody versus Shawn Spears and Darby Allin versus Sammy Guevara, but now we learn the other two matches. They will be Dustin Rhodes versus Kip Sabian and Lance Archer versus Colt Cabana. Wonder who's going to win that one. Now on to our first match of the evening. Kenny Omega taking on Trent Barreta / just Trent from the Best Friends in singles action. And Kenny's really been killing these singles matches recently. Would this be another good one? Let's find out. We start off the match respectfully with lots of handshakes and clean breaks on the ropes and everything. All that good babyface stuff that you just love to see. But things would escalate shortly afterwards when Trent would take out Kenny Omega with a big springboard moonsault to the outside. He gets a hug from Orange Cassidy and one from Chuck Taylor, like a Trent sandwich, and that gives Kenny Omega the opportunity to get back in the ring, hit the ropes, and wipe all of them out with a big dive of his own. So Trent, getting a little bit desperate, drops the good guy act and starts going for Kenny's recently healed hand. He had an injured hand. He had a cast on that, if you remember, in the past few weeks. So Trent goes straight for that, stomping on it, hitting it with moves, hitting the hand with moves. Yes, that makes sense. And putting on submissions. But at one stage, he accidentally attacks the left hand rather than the right one. And then when he goes back to the right one, you hear someone in the crowd go, "Hey, at least you got the right hand this time, Jericho," or something along those lines. But MJF wasn't there, so I genuinely don't know who it was. Any bets as to who? I reckon it was probably Tony Khan, the big smark. And by the way, Tony, I know that you watch Cultaholic, obviously, mate. Can you get us VIP tickets to the next Jericho cruise, please? Thank you very much. The action spills to the outside with Kenny crushing Trent with a deadlift German on the floor, and suddenly it becomes an empty arena match. They're brawling in the crowd, or where the crowd would be, and Kenny lifts up Trent and just demolishes him with almost like a buckle bomb, but into one of the support pillars or some kind of post in the crowd area, and it looks nasty, but as cleanly executed as it could be. And that post, by the way, that is Chekhov's post. It's going to be used later on in the night, so don't forget that. I'll be reminding you of this very moment, so don't forget about it. But back in the ring, now it's Trent's turn to fire up, and he's hitting Kenny with everything. The half Nelson snapdragon kind of thing, a pile driver that Kenny sells like RVD, springing back up somehow, and also, oh God, just a casual German suplex from the top rope, as you do, and Kenny seems to just land on his head, and it looks like it sucks. And all of this leads to Kenny Omega hanging on with about 1 minute left of the 20-minute time limit, but out of nowhere, he reverses a move, nails the V-trigger, and catches Trent with the one-winged angel for the last minute, for the clutch victory, like Michael Jordan. Or LeBron James. I'm more of a LeBron James guy. Anyway, the point is that this was really well done. It seemed like the match was going for a draw, but then the finish did kind of come out of nowhere. But on the outside, Chuck Taylor did a phenomenal job of just turning away as soon as the one-winged angel connected, because he knows that is the strongest move in wrestling and you can't kick out of that. This gets an A- grade, almost an A, another excellent singles match from Kenny Omega, but there were a few little missteps, tiny little miscommunications here or there that do cost it that A grade. So A- is the grade. I thought it was paced really well. They did a good job of fooling us into thinking that Trent would take Omega the distance, but the finish did slightly come out of nowhere, as if they realized, oh God, we've got about 30 seconds left, let's just go to the finish. I don't know if that's the case, but it did sort of seem that way. Next up, Hikari Shiina taking on Anna Jay. Now, I'm not familiar with Anna Jay, or I wasn't before this match, but she looked pretty decent here. Healing it up, swishing her hair in the face of Shida, the disrespect. Yeah, it was good stuff. But unfortunately, a few minutes into this match, we got a bit of a weird botch, a bit of a baffling botch, if I can use that term, because Shida whipped Anna Jay towards the ropes, And then you know the spot where they go for a drop kick, but the other person hooks the top rope with their arms and stops their momentum, and the other person crashes and burns off their own drop kick. Well, that's what they were going for. But instead, for some reason, Shida, I don't know if she thought the ring was way smaller than it was, but she whipped Anna Jay, and then even before Anna Jay had even really hit the rope, she'd already thrown that drop kick and missed. So it's like she went, off you go, bang, drop kick. Oh no, I missed you. Well, yeah, of course you missed her. She's running in the opposite direction. I should point out at this stage as well that Orange Cassidy is in the crowd watching this one with a sign with just nothing on it. Just a blank sign, which is a very on-brand thing for Orange Cassidy to do. Back in the ring, the two women have a strike exchange. Shida gets the better of it and then hits a sequence of moves. There's a big vertical suplex, there's a running knee strike, and then the win is with a big Falcon Arrow as well. So Hikaru Shida rightly picks up the win, but an alright debut though for Anna Jay. I was quite impressed with her. Unfortunately though, I wasn't really a fan of the match itself. I'm going to give it a C+ grade, which may seem a bit harsh, but yeah, there were certain points of this match where it felt like Shida just wasn't at the races, and I'm usually a very, very big fan of her. I think she's fantastic, but in this match, let's just say it wasn't the best Hikaru Shida match I've ever seen. On the plus side, it was still fine. It wasn't a horrendous match or anything. And Anna Jay made a pretty impressive debut. And also, we got a bit of storyline progression as well, with Shida sharing some angry words at ringside with Dr. Britt Baker after the match. Next up, a very fair 50-50 even matchup. Can't call it. Lance Archer versus Marko Stunt. Now, Jay the Snake Roberts cuts a spooky promo on the Tron before this match. He's saying things like, you should be scared, Cody, if you're brave enough to be scared. Or, no, wait, if you're clever enough, if you're brave enough to be scared, that makes no sense. Jake says if you're clever enough to be scared, there we go. There's a reason Jake's one of the best in the game. I can't do that. If you're clever enough to be scared, and we've got an ace up our sleeve, and Brandy wears the pants in your family, is she forcing you into this? And all that kind of Jake the Snake Roberts psychological mind gamesy stuff. It's very good. And then we get to the match itself, and I am backing Marko Stunt to do this, guys. Archer comes out second, and his entrance is great. He just barrels out, takes out one of the poor ringside crew members like he does with the Young Lions in New Japan, gets straight in the ring. Marko Stunt tries to square up to him, and Archer just takes his head off with a huge strike, and that's all in the space of about 10 seconds and before the bell's even rung. And Marko Stunt just gets chucked around in this match, like every suplex is just sending him the full length of the ring. It's absolutely insane to watch. He does get one little bit of offense in, going for a suicide dive onto Archer on the outside, and he just bounces off him and Archer no-sells it. Back in the ring, Archer hits him with a huge pounce and it sends Marko flying under the bottom rope. It looked scarily like when Enzo Amore got knocked out on the bottom rope, but this one was meant to happen. Marko Stunt's pretty good. Back in the ring again, Archer hits Marko with a huge choke slam. 1-2, he pulls the shoulder up and finishes it with the blackout. And he's not even done after the match as well. He gets Marko Stunt on the apron and hurls him into the babyface side of the crowd, just wiping out Orange Cassidy and Billy Gunn, a little bit of Billy Gunn's shoulder as well. I want this Billy Gunn action. I want to see Billy take on Lance Archer come hell or high water. He's an ass man. Now, I don't usually give squash matches this high a grade, but I'm giving this a B+. It was absolutely brilliant. The perfect opponent for Lance Archer's debut. And Marko Stunt is a boss, man. Really putting his body on the line to make Lance Archer look terrifying, as if he even needed to be made to look more terrifying. Great job as well by all the extras and the crew and everybody who you could see just scattering and running for the hills while Archer was stalking around the ringside area after the match. This was brilliant stuff. Next up, we go backstage for a Brodie Lee promo. Now, the first of these really made waves online when Brodie Lee berated one of the Dark Order for sneezing in his presence, which was a clear send-up of Vince McMahon. And it seems like the Vince McMahon stuff is continuing, but it's hard to pinpoint some of the jokes in this one. I don't know if I'm just not familiar with the inner workings of Vince McMahon. So Brodie Lee's got a few masked members of the Dark Order around this conference table. It's probably supposed to look like the WWE writers' room or a production meeting or something. One of them calls him Mr. Lee, and he goes, "It's Mr. Brodie, damn it," and then throws a glass against the wall. And then after he's thrown a glass against the wall, one of the other Dark Order minions yawns, because when someone's throwing a glass against the wall in my presence, the first thing I think is, yeah, I'm a bit bored here actually. I don't think, what the hell is going on? So Lee berates this dude and then tells him, you know what yawning signifies? It signifies weakness. And he's basically still doing this Vince McMahon thing, but it was a little bit less clear and less focused this week, I feel. Don't get me wrong though, even if you take all of the Vince stuff out of the equation, it's still effective character work. It gets Brodie over as this huge asshole that everyone wants to see lose, but he's so big and terrifying that, you know, who on earth is going to beat him? So it gets a B grade for that. but at the same time, some of those jokes or references just didn't quite land with me. If anyone else knows what they were on about, please let me know in the comment section down below, especially that Mr. Brodie one. That was strange, because I don't think Vince insists upon being called Mr. Vince from any of the stories I've read. Next up, 2 members of the Dark Order versus the biggest babyface team on the planet, Dustin Rhodes and QT Marshall. These 2 Dark Order members are referred to as just 8 and 9. So let's count them up, just to see if we've got any secret members lurking in the roster that we don't know about yet. So they're 8 and 9. That means there's, 7 dudes before them. So we've got Uvaluno, number 1, of course. Grayson, number 2. I guess Brodie Lee, number 3, or would he be number 0? For now, let's just say he's number 3. We've got Alex Reynolds and John Silver. So there's still 6 and 7. We don't know who they are. And we don't know who 8 and 9 are either. I guess they were just local enhancement guys, but 6 and 7, could that be QT Marshall? Let's find out. So the match begins, and QT still has that mask that the Dark Order offered him last week, and it looks like he's thinking about joining them. But QT's a good guy, everyone. Don't worry about that for a second. He throws the mask in the air. It's just a distraction, and he clocks number 8 or number 9 as they follow the mask in the air. Is it 8 or 9? They never make it clear. There's not a lot to report in terms of action here. The faces control early on with their veteran instincts. The Dark Order fight back a little bit, but then QT gets the hot tag to Dustin, and after that, it's not long before the Nightmare family pick up the victory. But there's a little bit more going on after this match as well, because down comes Brodie Lee, stomping down to the ring. He's furious. He stares down specifically Dustin Rhodes on his way down the ramp. That could be a future matchup. He gets in the ring and just powerbombs number 8 or 9, who knows, because he's so displeased with them losing the match. Well, interestingly, on commentary, they say he's powerbombed his own Dark Order member to send a message. But in pro wrestling, these messages are often quite clear. Not a lot of subtlety to this message. Just, I'm angry with you. Overall, this gets a B. It wasn't the most fast and furious match I've ever seen, but it was enjoyable all the way through, and there was nothing wrong with it, and we got a little bit of afters as well, so no complaints here. B is the grade. Next up, we head to a pre-recorded video package in Chris Jericho's palatial estate, as he says. He is sat in the hot tub outside. He's got a little bit of the bubbly. He does the old gag where he pours himself a glass and then puts the glass down and swings out the bottle instead. Jericho, you are like a dad at a wedding. Jericho says happy April Fool's Day. He loves April Fool's Day, and he's never met a bigger set of fools than the Elite. Oh. Jericho cuts a promo on the Elite, but he's cut off by Vanguard 1 buzzing in from the distance to torment Jericho once again. Jericho stands up out of the hot tub to confront Vanguard 1, and it's revealed that he's been wearing his leather pants in the hot tub this whole time, which, when I was watching this, I was taking a sip of my drink, and it genuinely did make me spit it out, and I had to clean my laptop screen. Turns out that Jericho really wants Vanguard 1 in the inner circle, because he apologizes for what he said last week. He offers him a t-shirt again, clips it onto Vanguard 1's little, I don't know, undercarriage. That sounds grim. But then Vanguard 1 just flies off, clearly rejecting Jericho's offer and taking the t-shirt as well. Jericho is livid. Right, you've probably seen like a clip of this online by now already. He turns to the house and shouts, "Release the hounds!" And out come just a fleet, just about 6 or 7 of the most adorable, non-threatening dogs. It's so good. He commands the dogs to chase after Vanguard 1. Some of them do, in a sort of playful dog way. Some of them do nothing. Some of them spin round in circles. They're dogs. This gets an A grade, I'm sorry, it just has to. Jericho is the master of these hilarious, self-aware, but totally non-self-aware in character promos. They're so funny. My favorite one has been the send-up of the Elite style, Cody Rhodes style video package that they did in the build to that match, but this is also very funny in a different way. Jericho just making himself look like an absolute fool for our entertainment, and it really, really did work for me. So it gets an A grade, and honestly, depending on how long big sections of the industry are shut down at the moment, Jericho versus Vanguard 1 could end up being feud of the year. And finally, the main event featuring 4 members of the TNT Championship Tournament, which obviously kicks off next week. It's Cody and Darby Allin taking on Shawn Spears and Sammy Guevara. Remember, of course, Cody is going to be facing Shawn Spears, Sammy is going to be facing Darby Allin. And there's a bit of tension early on before the bell between Cody and Darby, because Darby's like sat in the corner, like looking all emo and stuff. And Cody's like, "Come on, buddy, let's go. Come on, you ready?" And Darby's just like, "Shut up, preppy." That's basically what he would say if he was in a teen movie. Cody is like the older brother trying to get his moody teenage younger sibling involved in whatever fun and game, whatever wholesome all-American fun and games he's about to partake in, and Darby's just not having any of it. Early on in the match, Sammy is vlogging himself. As he does, he strides over to Brandy at ringside and asks her for a kiss. Instead, she just takes his phone, obviously, because that distracts him, and she walks away, and then Darby Allin just wipes out Sammy with a huge cannonball, just throwing himself into Sammy, and both men crash into the guardrail. guardrail. But the heels take control in the midsection of the match, and they gamble, because Shawn Spears has been leading this gambling ring, hasn't he, over recent weeks. They gamble over how long they can keep their opponents held aloft, installing suplexes. So, you know, Shawn will get some money out of his trunks and throw it down and go 10 seconds, then hold Darby up for 10 seconds. Sammy will then bet that he can do it for 15, and so on. And it goes on just long enough, I think, not to be tiresome. Darby finally escapes one of the suplexes though, and he tags in Cody, who runs wild, hitting all of his signature offense. He gets the figure four locked in on Shawn Spears. Sammy Guevara saves Shawn Spears with like a running, standing Spanish fly, but then shortly afterwards he eats a crossroads for his troubles. Spears cuts off Cody's momentum by yanking him out of the ring and throwing him into the heel side of the crowd, and with the referee checking on Sammy Guevara in the ring, all of the heels at ringside just put the boots to Cody. Jimmy Havoc's there, Kip Sabian's there, Penelope Ford's there, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, is there, and she just starts using her shoe just to stab him. And on commentary, Colt Cabana with the Austin Powers reference is just like, who uses a shoe? A little bit later on, it's Darby's turn to get the hot tag. He runs wild for a little bit, but Shawn Spears very impressively just catches him off an attempted low pay and just chucks him into the guardrail. Back in the ring, Spears nails Cody with the Death Valley driver, but he's too weak to make the pinfall. In fact, no, Darby's the legal man. Yeah, God, I got confused there. The action all spills to the outside once again. They're all in the crowd, where the crowd would be, and they're beating down Cody. Shawn Spears and Sammy Guevara just taking control right now, and Darby Allin climbs. Remember Chekhov's pillar that I mentioned before? He climbs that and coffin drops off it onto all three men. It looks great. So the heels by this point are really desperate, and they resort to weaponry. Sammy Guevara passes Shawn Spears a chair. He's got Cody in the ring looking to just end him like he's done once before, and it all went horribly wrong and Cody bled lots. And instead, Darby Allin's there to save the day, snatching the chair away from Shawn Spears, but then Sammy's there to snatch the chair away from Darby, and while Darby's distracted, Spears rolls up Darby for the shocking win. Well, not the shocking win, just the sneaky win. As Michael Cole would say, he stole one there. After the match, Darby is very frustrated and just lays out Cody with a big forearm, and Cody's just down and dazed, and it all seems to be teasing that they could meet in the second round of the tournament, but obviously we don't know that yet. This gets an A- grade from me. I thought it was good fun. It felt like a proper high-stakes main event TV tag team match. This is what you want from a TV tag team match, and I thought that all four men delivered. Yeah, it was good stuff all the way through. Overall, this episode of Dynamite gets a B+. Not one of the strongest ones in recent weeks, but certainly not the weakest either. It was still pretty good fun. I thought that the Omega versus Trent match was really good, and I thought that the main event tag team match was really good. Apart from that, I could take or leave the rest of the action, apart from Lance Archer's debut. I forgot about that as well. That was a hilarious and fantastic squash. And I should mention before I go that there were a few video packages as well sprinkled here and there, but I couldn't really grade them because they were just too advanced storylines. They could have been placed like, they felt a bit YouTubey is what I'm saying. They didn't really need to be in this show. I guess it just felt like a little bit of filler, but they were well produced video packages though. One was a build towards the Jon Moxley Jake Hager title match, which was really well done, and one was about Nick Jackson's road to recovery. He and Matt training in a ring they've set up on a tennis court somewhere. As you do, lads. Fair enough. So B+ is the grade. Yeah, a decent week for Dynamite. They keep rolling along despite all of the ongoing circumstances, and I have no real complaints. Good stuff, and I'll see you next time.